G'day guys, in this video we're going to look at the Multicam editor, how to dive into the Multicam editor and how to fix sync issues that Final Cut hasn't synced properly with the auto sync. We're not going to be looking at Multicam editing and the process involved in cutting between your video feeds. It's just going to be a look at the Multicam editor and what you can do within that editor. So if your recordings are stop-start and you have multiple tracks from the same camera and multiple audio recordings from the same recorder, unfortunately the automatic audio syncing doesn't always work perfectly. That's when you might need to dive deeper into the Multicam editor just to sort out those issues. Alright, let's have a look. Alright guys, so we're in Final Cut now. I've created a fresh event with a fresh project. So we're just going to go through the process of creating the Multicam. This is just a smart collection that I've made. So I get video and audio. I'll change that to list view. And I already know the clips that I need because I've been through this before. Click, shift click, command click, shift click. And there's my two audio recordings. Right click. Now, I'm just going to make a new multicam clip out of this. All automatic, it's 4K, 24 frames per second, and we're using audio for synchronization. But I'm just going to show you what happens if you haven't named your camera angles properly. Okay, so this is the new file that it's created. We'll just put that in the timeline, zoom to fit, and double click to open it up, zoom to fit, drag the timeline up. Now you can see what happens when you don't name your camera angles. Each clip has been given its own lane, which is very difficult to navigate. I'm just going to show you how to fix that easily. Command Z, that creation, so that creation's gone. We'll extend this over, rid of the sidebar. So the clips that we want, I've already gone through and deleted the camera angle just for that example. So if you want to name your camera, go into extended. If this isn't visible, command 4 for the inspector. On the eye, extended, camera angle and camera name. Just call this the A1. Once you click out of that, it pops in there. Now you can batch these as well. So click, shift click, camera angle, A1. Easy. And the audio as well. Okay, now that that's done, we'll just select them again. So now that they're all selected, we'll do the same as we did before. Right click, new multicam, audio for sync. Okay, so here's our new multicam. Append a storyline, double click to enter, zoom to fit. Now you'll see all the footage has been combined into lanes. And close the browser. So in this mode, you can't actually make cuts and switch between your footage. This is purely for fixing up things, color correcting, changing the audio. If you want to cut your multicam, click back or shortcut command left bracket. And in this part, this is where you would do your edits, either with the keyboard shortcuts, switching video and audio, video only, audio only. Edit this as much as you like. It's not actually going to affect what we're doing in the Multicam editor. Once you double click on that, all your footage is still here. And just so you know, if you rearrange the order of these here, it won't in any way affect the selections that you've made when you're chopping your audio, video, or video and audio. So we're not really looking at how to do the Multicam edit on this video. We're more looking at how to fix the audio issues. So in order to make this easier, I'm going to give ourselves more room here and increase the clip height. Now you can increase the clip height over here, but I prefer to use keyboard shortcuts. Now another thing we can do to make this easier is just boost the waveforms that are small. We are using audio to sync, even for our own visual cues, it helps. Besides being able to change your clip height, you can also make these selections here to show video only, collapse everything, or you can change the audio size until the point where you have no video and just audio. The keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to stick with this one because it gives us a bit of a visual cue as well. So you can see here at the moment, this is the monitoring angle as highlighted in grey. You can change this by selecting the little monitor screen there, and whichever one is selected will be your monitoring angle. You can only have one monitoring angle at a time, and you can also do that when skimming by pressing Shift V. However, you can have multiple audio tracks or no audio tracks. This is where you come in to really fine tune by listening to and disabling the different audio tracks. To change them while skimming, Shift A. Alright, because I'm screen recording, I'm just going to shut down the multicam angle view just to help the computer's performance. Here's our three angles. You can probably tell from the waveforms that they're not quite lined up. We've got two options for syncing. We've got a visual cue and an audio cue. The visual cue would work if you had video sources only. However, a visual cue won't help much with an audio only recording. So we'll just try to find an example here. Right here where I option click, I'll move the playhead there. As I just grabbed the alpha, so we could use this as a visual cue, but it doesn't really help once you've got an external recorder that you want to sync up as well. But we'll go through it just because it's one of the options in the drop down menu here. That is this one here, sync to monitoring angle. That's a visual, sync angle to monitoring angle. Even though they sound similar, that is automatically done by the waveforms. I'll zoom in here so we can see a bit better. This is going to be a real rough one because this isn't the focus of this video. So just here as I open the box, now you can see roughly with this waveform building to a peak that this is this section here anyway. But pretending that we had no audio and just using the visual cues, what we can do is select this. We want to sync this to the monitoring angle, which is this one. So select that. Now we'll skim through just as the box opens, click, and you can see how it's jumped across and hasn't done too bad a job. So we'll say done. We'll just play around with this audio here. Alright, this test. Got the alpha. Alright, this test. Got the alpha. Okay, so that's actually done a pretty good job. If you did want to move them around, select, just nudge it, one frame at a time. Playing around with the audio. The alpha. So that's one way to do it. It's not the way I'd recommend. I would recommend sync angle to monitoring angle, which will use the audio, which Final Cut was supposed to do in the first place, but it seems to struggle with that. Change this to my monitoring angle. This is my internal recording from the Wireless Go 2, and this is the one I'm going to be using as the master. I'll sync the others to this. So ideally, you'd only do one take on each camera and each audio device, but it's not always possible. The A7R3, for example, has a 30-minute record limit, and the Wireless Go 2 actually breaks its recordings up after 30 minutes and it will start a new recording. We'll zoom to fit here, click, shift click. Now this, we are syncing the selection to the monitoring angle, which is this audio down here. So that should be a lot more fine-tuned now. And we can test that in a bit with vocals. We're using the included cable with the Rode Wireless Go 2, which is the... We're using the included cable with the Rode Wireless Go 2, which is the... We'll do the same thing on this layer, shift click, sync selection to monitoring angle. Just grab a random piece of audio here. All the other cables so far have just been TRS with the one rings instead of all the other cables so far have just been TRS with the one rings instead of... So that should be everything in sync here. So another thing to check is that you didn't accidentally have any ranges set on footage that you've imported, because you might have imported it into another timeline and had a range set, for example. If you do this, it can interrupt the multicam syncing. So you can see when you accidentally had your ranges, this one would be pretty easy to pick up because it drops out. There's nothing next to it, so you can simply drag it out as far as it goes. The gain on the camera is set to 10. Gain on the gain on the camera, and there's no issues there. If we look over here where the recording breaks, we'll just play around with this part. I'm not sure if this is in focus.
Spells, and then it circles back to -30.
I'm not sure if this is in focus. Just going to change the audio level from 10. I'm not sure if this is in focus.
Spells, and then it circles back to negative.
So you can tell the R3 and the A1 are in sync. This recording 3, where we accidentally had a input set in the browser when we imported it, they've only synced this first portion of the dialogue, which is correctly synced. The missing media is the part that would otherwise sync up with this continuation of footage, but it has failed to push the rest of the recording out to line up with everything else. As soon as it goes past this breakpoint, it's no longer synced. So you can see Final Cut doesn't really know what to do with this audio. There's no real easy way to fix this until you realise that you have these handles here. Now, to expose the rest of that audio, you can't drag this handle over because this is protected. You can nudge the clip, but that takes way too long. Now, with the select tool, you can't drag it over. Change to the position tool to drag it over, but I think the best way to do it, I'll just undo all that. Now, grabbing on your handle, it'll show you yellow, but you can't push it out. If we go zoom to fit, and you can't push it out this way, you can select it and go trim tool, roll it that way, back to the selection tool, and then you can drag that out. You can see you get all that time back. Once we made that edit, neither recording has a handle anymore. I'm not sure if this is in focus. Just going to change the audio level from 10. I'm not sure if this is in focus. Just going to change the audio level from 10. I'm not sure if this. Just going to change the audio level from 10 down to 7. I'm not sure if this is in focus. So there you go, that's pretty clean now. The best way to get rid of selections in the browser, selecting all, pressing Option X, and you can see those ranges have disappeared now. Alright guys, so we just look at the traditional way to sync audio in Final Cut. We'll just make the same selections as we did before. Now right click and we go to Synchronise Clips. So it creates a new synchronized clip in the browser, as you can see with the little chain link there. Same again, we'll double click to enter. And we'll give ourselves a bit more room to look at it. Now you can see it's all out of order. Recording 3, for example, down the bottom is before recording 2, which is the incorrect sequence of recordings. But you can see this clip out here to the right has not synced up correctly with anything. And you can tell it's going to be a bit more difficult to monitor the audio. You'll have to drag down on the waveforms or disable the clips using the shortcut V. And then it circles back to -30. So this is what the Rode wireless go to, and then it circles back to -30. So this is what the Rode wireless go to, and then it circles back to. So you can see it's a bit more of a pain to sync after the initial synchronization. There's no options to select again and sync a clip. You just have to click and drag them around, use the waveforms, nudge them, and it's a lot more tedious than the Multicam workflow once you get the Multicam workflow done properly. Alright, so you can see why it's important not to have ranges selected. When you're doing your Multicam, you want to clear all of the ranges, and I think you can tell from that video that Multicam is a bit easier to sync audio after the initial syncing if there's errors, and it's a lot more streamlined than syncing audio. But the synchronized audio feature is good if you only have a few clips and they're long takes, and it'll sync up perfectly, no dramas there. For me, Multicam is the better option most of the time. I think it's easier to monitor the audio, change the videos, and the fact that you can resync after the initial sync, just in case something didn't go to plan, just makes it a whole lot easier. That's it. How are you? I'm good, thanks. Let's have a gander. Hopefully you've learned something. If you didn't, you're an idiot.